Hey, welcome to the shield. Welcome to the shield. Um, I appreciate y'all. We took a week off last week. Thank y'all so much for taking time to join us. We really appreciate y'all being in the building. Let me introduce the fellas. Okay, so right next to me is King Lemuel. Clap it up for King Lemuel. Next up, we got Romy. Y'all thought y'all missed him. Romy in the building. That's wrong. So let me say this for our newcomers. We got a lot of new people that's been joining. We really appreciate y'all liking. We appreciate y'all subscribing. We appreciate all the feedback that y'all call me with. But we got a really, really good one today. Right? I want y'all to think about the topic that we have in mind, right? Lay 'em wrong. We talking about blended families, right? And so I started thinking about it. A lot of people are dealing with blended families. And so I really started thinking about all of my friends or the people that got married. It's very seldom you're gonna find somebody that married someone and they got all their kids by one woman, or vice versa. The woman got all their kids by one man. And so I thought it would be taboo that we need to just go ahead and discuss and talk about this. So this is where we are today. We're gonna have a really good intellectual conversation about blended families. Okay. And so I'm gonna let Rome pose a question. One question that you got in your mind about blended family, and then I'm gonna bring our special guest. Come on, Rome, pose one question for us.
Well, I guess it's more of a comment. I just feel like from my experience from afar looking at blended families, it seems like if you get married in your 20s, you deal with a lot of immaturity on behalf of the children's father or the children's mother. I think as time goes on, I think people get a little more mature, but it seems like in the early 20s, when most people get married at that young age, you deal with a lot of mishaps and a lot of different things, conflict, if you will, from the fathers or the biological fathers or biological mothers. So I guess my question would be, how do you overcome those obstacles outside of talking God for everything and prayers? In the natural sense, what do you do?
I love it. Come on, Lim, hit me with one question because for the sake of time, we got to get this thing rolling. A lot of people, y'all got to be excited for this one. We need y'all energy. We need y'all in the chats. Like and subscribe, like my boy Bishop say. What you got for us, Lim? We need one quick question.
Question. Here's the question. Is blended families for everybody? Should every man embark on the challenge and the responsibility of taking care of another man's kids?
Okay, so he making this personal, and so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make it personal too. So I got my aunt on the phone, right? And so my aunt is on the call, and she is gonna be able to represent for blended families. And I wanted her to bring her on, and let me just tell you a little bit more about the introduction about my aunt. Yeah, I love my aunt, man. She has been there ever since I was a shorty. She was the one that I couldn't talk to my parents about relationships, and she used to stay up real late at night telling me about how women think, who they are. And so she is an accountant. She is a first lady. She is an evangelist. She is an entrepreneur. She is in real estate. I mean, I can't really name too much stuff she don't do, but this is my aunt Kim Thompson.
Wow.
Right. So look, for the sake of time, let's jump on in here, right? So, Auntie Kim, if you will, just tell us a little bit more about yourself and about your first, second marriage. Just dive on in here. Tell us, give us a little insight. Who you
All
who
right. So my name is Kim, and I've been married twice. First time I got married, I was 20 years old. Divorced at maybe 27. Got married again at 33. Never planned to be. I didn't go into a marriage to get a divorce, but things happen, and so you leave. when you can't take it anymore. And what I did know is that I wasn't meant to be alone. I am a wife, always have been, desired to just be married. And so when I asked God for this time, let me do it your way, believing God that He was going to bless me with a man of God that I desire. But when I got a divorce, I'm in church, so I'm looking at all these single women, and I'm like, there's nowhere in the world I got to stand in back of that line to get a husband. They before me. But what I realized is when you commit your ways to the Lord, it is not a cliche, it's serious. When you commit your ways to the Lord and you asked Him, He would give you exactly what you're asking for.
Come
So
on,
I
come
be
on, come on. So are we talking about the Sierra prayer right now?
Come on.
Just said. Hold on, you said God would give you exactly what you asking for.
Yes, He will.
Okay, keep going, keep going. Auntie.
And so what I did was, I developed this list. I wrote it out. This is what I want. This is my expectation. Exactly. What I did, what I didn't put because I didn't think about it, that I didn't want all these kids. I left that part out. I brought 3 kids. I had 3 kids, but I didn't think he was going to have those many kids. So when I began to think about that, and I asked God, like, I really don't want no kids. He said, well, how could you ask me for something that you're not willing to do? You got kids and you want somebody to treat your kids right. So you're going to ask me for something that you're not willing to do. That's hypocritical. And so I had to open up my horizon and say, well, God, you're right. So if I want a man to accept my kids, then I'm going to have to be able to accept his kids. And so sure enough, the list that I asked God for, he gave it to me. Within 3 years later, I got married again at 33. My husband had 5 girls.
How many?
5.
Hold on, how many?
He has 5.
How many did you have?
I had 3. So we have 8 kids.
Hold on, I want y'all to hear this very closely. This
And
is Black Brady Bunch. But go ahead, Auntie.
so, and the ages was, we had 2 that was 6, 1 was 8, 1 was 11, 1 was 12, 1 was 13, and 2 was 15. And I'm 33. So I went from having 3 kids to 8, and 6 of them live with us. My husband's first wife died at 24. He had 3 kids by her. She died. He got married again. He had 2 kids by her. So when he divorced, she took her 2 kids. So we had 6 kids in the house. And it was, it's a typical thing. You think it's going to be, you think it's going to be good, because I was a stepchild at one point and I wasn't treated right as a stepchild. So me coming into a marriage with step kids, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be this fantastic mother. We have a huge family. I'm used to people, no problem. That's what I thought. And so I come in there with my heart open. I'm going to do this thing. I got some more girls now. We're going to have just a big old party. And what the fortunate thing about what people don't talk about, because our kids was kind of the same age. I got 2 boys and a girl. My sons was, they were the age of his daughters, which means now you got a situation. They living in the house. They're not kin. So you got to think about, if there's any hanky panky going to go, because
Hey, watch out now.
we went to church together at one point, and a couple of them had a crush on my sons at first before we got married. But the fortunate thing about that was my sons didn't like him. They weren't attracted to him. So they weren't cute. So that was a blessing. Now, if I had married a guy that had some, girls that they liked, then it would have been a whole different story. We would have had to keep these doors open kind of thing, because they was that age, to be honest. But God blessed us in a way that wasn't, they didn't like them. So we didn't have that issue. But what I didn't anticipate, I think blended family is not for the faint at heart, because it is already rough raising your own kids. But then now you got somebody else's kids, and then we had kids on the outside, whereas the mother never wanted them to have a relationship with me. So now we got this kind of thing. So when they go home, they're young. When they go home, they hear their mom saying, don't like her, or make trouble for her, or whatever that is. And then they don't want to disappoint their mother. So, it's almost like a betrayal. Oh, you like her, don't call her mom. And so now you have kids who's not able to articulate that, coming to your house and destroying it when they do come. And when you're not mature enough, which I wasn't, I can admit I wasn't ready for that. Mentally, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't have the right equipment for that kind of situation. So I failed at a lot of things. My feelings got hurt a whole lot because here you are trying to be this great mom, but you got rejection. And no matter what I did, I spent my money, spent my time teaching. I mean, I'm doing everything that I can as a mother, but if a person don't want you, they don't want you. And so what they do is they make trouble. So, the father, he's going to believe his kids. Oh, she said this, or she did that, or she treat her kids better than me, stuff like that. And he's going to believe them. Whereas in my eyes, I wasn't doing that, but in their eyes, they didn't want me there. So they made a lot of trouble at times. And so then the father's gonna take the kid's side because that's his kid, or me, my kid. It was just a whole big old mess at first, until you know many times we wanted to leave each other. We loved each other, and we were very great for each other. But what we didn't consider is whether our family would have been great together as a whole. You cannot just think about you when it comes to that kind of stuff. You got to think about the nucleus of a family, which we did not consider at the time. So we got all that, and not only that, they're hurt from a prior divorce. They done left their father. They done left their mother dead, and then the other is, and so you got all this hurt, and you're not really equipped to unpack all this stuff because it's like you just, we as Black people, we just throw things together. And so what I would say is, if I had to do it all over again, I would definitely get counseling. I would definitely, and another thing that we didn't consider, like sometimes when we come into this family, we're the adults, and so we immediately start um marking territory. I'm the man, I'm the woman, you are mad at me. What well, you don't even have a relationship with the kids first. Before you could tell me what to do, develop a relationship with me. Because I would appreciate you telling me what to do once I know that you at least care about me, but not coming in the door saying don't do this or don't do that. I'm a man, I'm a woman of the house, without giving these kids an opportunity to really get to know who you are. They don't even really know you. And so I just think that if that's the case with a blended family, take that other child out to dinner sometime, or sit somewhere and talk to them and let them know your motives, or that you care about them. And before you begin to, tell them what to do, or assert that I'm your father, or get your feelings hurt, get to know them for who they are. Get to know their hurts and pain. And then I needed to be more mature to understand they going to hurt your feelings. But if I understand the dynamics of a blended family, then I'm going to take the fence out, because it's not always meant to be offended. But sometimes kids can only act like they can act, and they can only move the way they can move because they don't understand all this. The only thing they know is that they hurt, and I don't have my other parent with me, and my family is destroyed or is separated, and I don't like this. You know what I'm saying? So we need to be more considerate, and we do have to. I I've just felt like if I knew what I knew now, I wouldn't allow even the kids that came over and they was very offensive to offend me like that. I think I would have understood that that came from their mother. You know what I'm saying? Don't take it to heart. Still be an adult and rise above what they're doing, and still do what you're supposed to do regardless, because at the end of the day, I love my husband and I need to be, and then another thing, I wouldn't have been so vocal. I would have asked him, what how is it that you wanted to raise your kids? And then I would have been instrumental to side with him. Okay, is this what you want to do? Opposed to, well, I believe it should be this way, or do it this way. Be so vocal, opposed to just seeing what he want for his kids, opposed to inserting myself all the time. I think sometimes we insert things too much without really without even understanding the dynamics of the situation. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, absolutely. So take me back to how, because I'm asking questions that people want to know at this point.
Go
So
ahead.
how were you able to manage, a household with that many kids, 8 kids? How were you able to manage all of that? Like, I just so happen to know, but tell us about how you were able to combine and get a big enough house and have enough food for those many kids and go to that many volleyball games, track games. How did you manage all of this?
So I was working. I was an accountant downtown at Blue Cross Blue Shield, and he was working. He's a he first of all, he's in the army. He was in the reserve. So every month he go away for the weekend or whatever.
Hold on,
And
let's pause. Let's pause. I want the audience to hear this. He was in the reserve military. He left once a month for a weekend, and that means that was just you with all the kids. I'm just making sure I got this clear.
absolutely,
So it was just
absolutely,
you with all of the kids because he had to leave. Tell me
yeah.
a little bit more about that as well, please.
And
Elaborate.
so now that he left, and I'm here with all these kids again, I don't mind kids because we have a big family, but it's the aftermath of it. I'm here with them, and they really, they used to they used to write little letters and put it under the door like I hate her, or they used to they used to write a letter, she's making your food, daddy, and that was my job, and why is she making your plate? Just things like that. Or when you left, daddy, she did this, or she was talking on the phone with somebody, just trying to make trouble for us. And so a lot of time, what I try to do is engage all of us in fun activities. Maybe we play it because our kids, my sons are really hilarious, so they very entertaining too. So they help out, and they free spirited too. So with my kids being the way they are, they kind of just jump in and they kind of lessen the load for me because they understood. Me and my kids had a very good relationship. I always talk to them about everything, very open about. They can always bring things to me, and they was not. They was totally opposite. Like we hugged all the time. They didn't hug no time.
Give
You
give
know
us
what I'm saying?
give us the analogy about you let your kids watch the Martin. Give
So
us that
so
analogy.
so when we got married, we met in church, okay, and so we go to a strict sanctified church, and so I grew up that way. And I had purpose in my mind that when my kids got older, even though I love the Lord, they're not gonna be just all church. I want them to have a balance. And so when we got married, he was still strict, and so they were watching Martin, and he was like, my kids don't watch Martin. I said, okay. He said, so I don't want Martin to be played in his house. I said, hold up. Martin's going to be played in this house. I said, now, your kids don't have to watch Martin. They can go in their room. But my kids is watching Martin. Now, either they all watch him or they go to their room. And then you got to understand, I'm a hood girl too. I'm from Inglewood. I got my own car.
Chicago Inglewood though. That's
I,
Chicago
I
Inglewood.
got you.
Go
I
ahead.
got you.
Go
I
ahead,
got you.
Auntie.
I got my own cars. I have 4 rental property already. I'm very successful. So I didn't need a man for that. I wanted a husband for companionship. I don't need you to take care of me or my kids. I got that. As a matter of fact, I help you. But you're not going to just come in. That was my attitude at first. You're not going to come in and change the dynamic of my life just because your view. Now, either we talk about it and we you tell me why. If there's some kind of pornography or something on there, then that's cool. But that's not what that is. And whatever it is, it is. So needless to say, they watch Martin.
So did the kids get along?
Yeah, they pretty much got along. They got along. Was one incident that we had. Now my daughter was 6 years old, as I said, and the 3 that was living with us in the beginning, they didn't have their mother, and there was abuse by a prior situation. And so one day my daughter was sitting on my lap, and one of the older girls came and pushed her off my lap, and they wanted to sit on my lap. And so and my daughter at 6 years old started crying. And so I said, hold up. Now I'm your mom too. I get it. But don't you ever push my daughter off my lap. And I had to explain to them. She's going from having no sister to 5 sisters, and then she's little. So you all have to be sensitive to the fact that now she's feeling, she kind of start digressing it, within being an introverted opposed to and so she began to, she didn't know what was going on. Again, we didn't consider that, but didn't know what was going on. And so she got all these people that's bigger than her, and they pushing her, and they want to, and then they try to try me. I'm telling you, this time they try to try me. So you got these girls. So I'm short. I'm 5 feet even, and they kind of tall, even though they was that age. And so they were like, when I brought up my kids, I didn't let them play fight me because I figure I got boys. So if they fight me, playing fight me, they got bigger, they might be able to overtake me. So we ain't playing those games. If you ever hit me, I'm going to slap you across. That's the kind of mother I was. So we never played fight because I don't want you to be comfortable hitting me. So when I got married, they bigger than me. They was playing fight me. I said, listen, I know y'all don't know me that well. I don't play fight. Still hit me and stuff. I said, listen, no, I'm serious. I don't do that. And so they kept doing it. So I took both of them and slammed them on the ground and put my hand. I said, don't play with me like that. And so needless to say, we ain't had that trouble no more. So you got, those kind of things. Again, I probably would have did something different, but coming in raw like that, I can only do what I can do. But they didn't play with me no more either.
So what's some of the hardest things you had to endure with the blended families? If you had to think about like a list of what okay, now in hindsight, what was the
Mhm.
hardest thing you had to really deal with in blended family, in your blending your families?
Let me say this too. First, the one of the things when we got together, we took a family picture and we went to Sears. That's when they had the portrait, and we was actually divided even then because it's your dad, my mom, and kind of stuff. And it seemed like what we couldn't do is we couldn't argue in front of them. So when we got mad at each other, we would either leave out the house, go in the car, and argue about whatever was going on because you got to understand your kid's going to take your side and my kid's going to take my side. It doesn't matter who right or wrong and different. They're never going to see the other person way. And so we had to do things that, would keep peace in the house, especially between the kids. We couldn't let them see we was breaking down. If we always had to show a unified front, because if we didn't show a unified front, any little crack in the armor, it was going to get bigger. So in order for us to keep this together, we had to, I didn't like the way you hit him. I didn't like the way you said that to him. Those kind of things that by you being sensitive of your child, any little thing is going to kind of nag you because they ain't your child. Don't talk to my kid like that. And it may not even been meant like that, but that's the way you take it. I remember one time, one incident, my son, which was 15 years old, he's a football player. So he's big, and my husband told him to go clean up the bathroom, right? He didn't want to clean up the bathroom. And so he go down there and he's throwing things around. Now, I knew my son was wrong, right? And God told me at that time, if you say anything, you done lost the battle. You letting your son know that he's in charge, right? So when my husband went down there and he's kind of bucking up to him, my son was, and I know we don't even do that. That's disrespectful. But because he felt like, I'm the man, you taking my place or whatever. So my husband go down there and Danny just go and clean up the room. I ain't doing, and he throwing things around. So my husband, kind of tagged him. I ran upstairs, right? And I put my head through the pillow and was screaming, God, don't let him kill my son. But I knew if I did it in front of Danny, it would have been over. So certain things you take care of after the fact, not in front of the kids. Because if you take care of it in front of the kids, it's disastrous. You should never argue with your companion in front of these kids because it's already rough already. So the worst part about it was I think they wanted to and this just really happened because we was actually gonna get a divorce because it was just too much. My daughter, his daughter died during COVID, and all through our marriage, I just felt that they didn't want me there, and they made made points of doing different things, lying on me to the family and stuff. It was just really rough for me. And so I was telling my husband, I'm like, no, I said, no, this is a little bit, it's getting a little bit too much. I don't, And he's like, no, they're not doing that. I'm like, yeah, they are. So when my daughter was on her deathbed, which is my bonus daughter, I went to the hospital and she said to me, she said, listen, she said, I'm sorry. She said, we was rotten kids. And she said, we deliberately did. And she said, my sisters may not ever, ever admit that. but we did things deliberately. And she said, I am so, so sorry. And she said, I love you. You've been the best mom ever, right? And it just brought me to tears because I knew what I was trying to do. And the fact that she admitted what they was doing, you know what I'm saying? That made my heart feel good. She asked me would I forgive her. I said, I did. Oh, I will. And so she died. So we was at the repast. And we went over to her son's father house. And so I met, the grandmother of my grandson on his father's side, and me and the grandmother was talking, and my husband and his father was talking. So the lady asked me, she said, she said, I know why they didn't like you. Just like this, I'm just meeting the lady. She said, I know why they didn't like you. I said, why they didn't like me? She said, and let me say, they didn't like you. She said, because I talked to them a lot and they confided in me a lot. Like they was going over this lady house confided in her. And so I said, why? She said, because they couldn't break you. She said, that's why they didn't like you, because they couldn't break you. They tried their best to break you and they couldn't. And she said, and I see it now. She said, one time your daughter came over here and she said it was when y'all was going through a rough time. And she said she was so, so happy. And I asked her, like, why are you so happy? I ain't seen you happy like this in a long time. She said, it's working, it's working. She said, what's working? They finally gonna get a divorce. And I said, what you say? She said, they finally gonna get a divorce. I said, hold that right there. I told my husband, I said, come here. I said, tell my husband what you just said. She said, they have been plotting from day one to break y'all up. And Shannon said to me, she said, y'all get ready to get a divorce, right? I said, yeah. She said, and she was so happy. She said, all of them was so happy. And when y'all turned it around, they was upset with y'all. So what I'm saying is you don't know how kids is plotting. And it's really a lot of time it's not their fault. It's other people, family members. And they kids, they don't know how to decipher that. They can only go by what they're and a lot of times people don't want to see people together. So they instead of them when they come to them and ask them for advice or confiding in them, instead of them putting the fire out, they add more logs to the fire. And so why did she say that? Or why like one time my husband's sister was really upset at me. And I'm like, what's wrong with you? And she said, your daughter told my niece told me what you did to her. I said, what did I do to her? She said, you said whatever it was. It was a while ago. And I said, well, let's confront her. Right. And so she comes to the office and uh, my sister-in-law was telling her niece, which was my daughter, like, you told me Kim did such and such and such and such. And she said, I didn't tell you that. She said, you did tell me that about Kim. She said, no, I didn't. She said, she cussed out, you are so and so, like you did tell. She said, I did not tell you that. Girl, those kind of things was the worst part for me. You know what I'm saying?
Let me
Because
let me ask you this. 2 more minutes, and I'll let Rome and Lim ask the questions as well. So, for the audience out there that want to know, does it ever get better? So, when you talk about blended families, when you talk about kids that grow up with resentment and they can't stand you and you don't see the fruits of your labor, all the sacrifices you did. See, a lot of people don't know what it takes for a step parent. And this is why
right,
we're having conversations like this, right? We hear from the angle of the parent, but we don't never get a chance to hear from the reverse side of the
right,
step
right,
parent.
right,
So
right,
this
right.
one ask you, does it ever get better or easier as they get older? Really?
So what's gonna make it easier? You have to grow up and mature. You have to the parents got to come together. I think the last straw for me was I said, I am done trying to prove myself, trying to show them I love them. Because if they don't know by now, they would never know. If they need me, I'm here. Don't force them. Don't ask them. Don't coerce them. Let them come on their own. And what my job is to be mature enough through all the hurt and pain to still be there with open arms. So I had to mature. I had to understand if I'm going to be with this man, which I love more than anything,
How long y'all
that
been married?
we've been married 29 years, right? I and he is for me the best man ever. And so if I love him like that, then I had to find a way to put peace in my home. And so that means that I know he loved his kids. I love my kids. We had to come together and say, you know what? We're done with the shenanigans. If they want to be apart, they can. If they don't, they don't. And so we had to get to that place, but not holding it against them though. You can't hold, you have to forgive. You have to have liquid love, right? With all the hurt and pain that I had to endure. And I'm going to have my daughters to come on here, if y'all have a part two, to tell from their perspective. But as a parent, as an adult, you have to mature and say, you know what? He's worth it for me. So let me digress and let me not argue. But when they're ready to come and talk, I'm going to be there to hold them and to hug them and love them. In spite of all that we're going through, I love them. And so if I love them, I got to take my feelings out and understand there was other dynamic that was trying to break us up other than them. And hurt people hurt people. When people are hurt people hurt people. And so because God healed my heart, and I asked him, God, you gave me these kids for a reason. But I don't want to be bitter, envious, or unforgiveness with all that I've gone through with the lies and deceit and all that and what they try to do. At this point, it don't matter. The Bible says you overcome evil by doing good. So I have to be mature enough to ask God to heal my heart, but let me still love them. Let me not, like the prodigal son, when they come back, let me be there to hold them. Let me be there to nourish them back to health. You know what I'm saying? We had to both be mature enough to say, you know what? We know what this is. It's the enemy also. And they didn't ask for this. This is something we did. So we're going to have to kind of take the hit for this, but not hit to the point that we offended. But we have to overcome whatever they do and show them love anyway. Because if we are to display who God is in our life, we have to show love. And what is love? It's patient, it's kind, it's not self-seeking, it don't get revenge, it don't keep scores. You know what I'm saying? That's what love is. Patient, it's kind, and that takes God to do it. So I had to pray for this. I need you to let me show them love when I want to slap them. Okay? When I
You,
want to, when
hey,
I want to get back. Let me take me out of this equation. And you work through me, because at the end of the day, as you think about it, they are wounded, they're hurt. Their mother was gone. You know what I'm saying? And then they had another mother who abused them. And so, in taking all that in, you have to kind of be a sacrificial lamb, so to speak. So if I love him, I gotta love the kids, and maybe God brought me to us together so I could show them what real love is, in spite of, because that's how God loved us. And no matter how much we wrong him, sin, whatever, he's still right here. Come on, baby, just come on home. I had to whoop you though, but I still love you. And so that's how we gotta have. We gotta love them in spite of themselves. And so that's what helped me.
I'm with you when you're right.
Yeah.
I'm with you when you're right. Hey, Rome, I had to hit him with that. You're preaching good. Okay, so I'm done. She did everything I wanted her to do. I'm gonna go ahead and pass it to young King Lemuel and Rome. Y'all go ahead and ask my auntie some questions. But one thing I can say, let me just say this, give you
Yeah.
context. I was there. So I
Yeah.
used to come visit the house, and I used to be over there. They used to take turns making the Kool-Aids. One of them was on punishment all the time, and then she used to be in the room, and then you can't go nowhere. I gotta ask if I can stay a night because he got daughters. It was a real unique situation I'd
Yeah.
never seen before.
Yeah.
But she's being really, really modest. They had a really big house. They had, everybody had their own like the shit, own room. And then they moved from that house to a bigger house. So God has blessed them through it all. So everything wasn't scrambling either. So it ain't like they
Mhm.
was the Jacksons in a 2-bedroom house. Like they was in a big house in a nice area. So although the 63rd Inglewood, 63rd Street Inglewood came out, they was able to move up like the Jeffersons in the suburbs, and everything was lovely after that. But my aunt was not a joke. Her son was a football player, and when I tell you, she had the fear of everybody with her. She was 5 feet or 5 feet right now, but didn't nobody really test Auntie Kim like that because it was a whole other level. So could
Yeah.
you imagine that and then adding all of that into her life? But I didn't really see her stress as a kid like that. But hearing it like this, giving me a different perspective as well. So go ahead, Lim. What you got for?
All right, so I don't have questions specifically. I have more statements, and based upon some of the things that she shared. So I'm going to go back to what she said. It was something very powerful. I don't want to gloss or glance over it. She said a lot of times when two adults have decided based upon emotions, based upon their wherewithal that they want to come together, the consideration of how that's going to affect the children, if the children involved, and what were they dealing with prior to this new union, right? She mentioned there was abuse in this family prior. What kind of parent was the mother prior to this? The original parents, let's just
Hmm.
say, and then
Yeah.
the step parents. See, first of all, the children at all, and none of us on camera got a chance to choose our parents,
Yeah. Absolutely.
right? And then if that relationship or marriage doesn't work out, and then we go to level two, then this is another decision that children have no part in, and then they're kind of put into as you say, a gumbo pot, and we're just supposed to just figure this thing out.
Yep.
That's a big ask
Yep.
for kids that haven't even developed their own psychological, emotional disposition, are
Absolutely.
probably lost trying to figure out who they are. Now, I'm speaking from personal experience because I was that child
Me too.
growing up who my
Hmm.
mom remarried. And then I didn't get a choice. Well, hey, who is this guy? Right? Does he work for me? Does he like basketball?
Yeah.
Right? What are some of the things in common that I'm going to have with him? Does my opinion even matter? Hey, you know what I'm saying? So these are the things, and so when you put that level of press
Yes.
on children, they're naturally going to react and say, wait a minute, repression or
Yeah.
suppression. They're going to suppress and go into like, right? So I want to be the child. I don't want to talk about the adults because adults do what adults do. I'm going to represent the children in these cases, and I empathize and sympathize with them because I'm going to take it to another level. When my mom remarried, this is another level, ladies and gentlemen. When you don't move into his house, he's moving into your house. Uh-oh, get out of there,
Yeah.
right? See, now watch this. There's a level of lack of respect when my mom buys a house and she's moving a man that never lived in that house into our house. And
Yeah.
then now he wants to come in and
Yeah.
dictate the rules of engagement.
Yeah.
The devil is a lie,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
You absolutely right. That's why what we did was we brought a house together. I
That
didn't live
that's
in
the
his
way you got
house.
to do it.
Yep.
That's the
Yep.
right.
I didn't live in his
Thank
house.
you.
He didn't live in my house. We brought a car and we brought a house together. We brought a car together. We did
You
everything.
have to. You
You
have
have
to.
to, because you're
You have
right.
to.
They won't
Yeah.
respect it. They
No.
won't respect that. Mm-mm.
No.
So,
So
so hold
go ahead.
on. Just to stir the boat before I give it to Ron, watch this. See, I know I watched it. I'm about to shoot the dice. Watch this. So, Auntie, could you tell me your perspective on you being submissive to him, though? Like this new dude coming in with your kids and trying to run everything because he in the military. Tell me a little bit more about your idea or your perspective on submissiveness.
Do you want to know what it is now or then?
I want to know both. That's why I'm
Okay.
asking.
Okay.
Right.
So then I was very protective because my guards is up like this. No, I was a stepchild, and I was kind of, nobody's gonna hurt my kids. They didn't ask to be here, so I'm on my guards like this. Um, and God has an order. It's God, man, and woman and children. That's his order. And anytime you go outside his order, it's not going to work. I don't care what I try to do. I have my own money, my own car, all that women do now. I got my own. I don't need you. Maybe not, but I want one. I don't want to be. I can't hold myself like that. I don't. And if you do, I might just. I don't want to do that to myself. So I want somebody to hold me. So I had to fall in line. But in the beginning, because my guards is up. And then you got to realize I'm from a broken marriage too. They got played and stuff like that. So what God strategically did, he gave me a man that I didn't have to worry about certain things, but I'm still hard. And not only that, I didn't have a father in the home. And so I don't know what that looked like to have a man in it. My mom raised me. So I don't know the motion of a man. I don't know how he act. I don't know. He may not be tripping. This could be the norm, but I don't know that. So everything he said and did was offensive to me. Because nigga, you ain't gonna, that kind of stuff. But then, man, anyway. So that's the kind of person I was, and didn't back down. I wasn't. You can't slap me and I'm going to the corner and cry. That wasn't me, because I'm gonna get something and bust you upside the head. That's the kind of person I was. So, but what I had to realize is God has an order, and in order for this marriage to really work, and for us to stay in love, and for me to understand this whole dynamics where God put me together, I had to fall in line with the order of God. And that means that we have to respect each other. Number one, I need submission. Don't mean that I don't have nothing to say. It just means that when we talk, your decision, if it's the best decision, it's going to be the best decision, and I'm good with that. And so I had to learn, like I was telling Carlos earlier. He did something that I was praying about, and God gave me insight, and I thought it was my duty to go tell him what God said. God said this, you wrong. And God said, no, 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 you was wrong. Well, God, you could be right and wrong at the same time. Well, how is that, God? Well, I told you that information for you to pray about it. I didn't tell you that information for you to go tell him about it, because he wasn't going to listen to you. I knew who to send, but I just gave you insight so you could know how to pray. We as women talk too much. And we think that we got to be heard. But what I found out is, when you submit, number one, to God, he will show you how to navigate through the process of your marriage. And so what he told me eventually is that, another thing, I'm talking too much. I'm telling you what somebody told me. This is what Carlos really wanted you to tell me. So I was making a wreck, because again, my attitude was, you can't tell me what to do. And so when we was on a break, this woman called me. She was a friend of mine, and God put me on her heart. And she said, I need to talk to you. I said, okay. She said, meet me for lunch. And so I met her for lunch, and we're sitting down talking. She said, I got a question. She said, what did Delilah do to make Samson go against his God? I'm like, huh? She said, what did Delilah do? Because Samson, she decided Samson went against God. What did that woman do to make him go against his God? Because first of all, he shouldn't even been in her house. Number two, she wasn't even from his lineage to even be dealing with. But he defied everything, and he went to Delilah's house, so much so that he even told Delilah his secret, knowing she was getting ready to kill him. Now, you done twice, you done told me, and I done had the army to come to kill you, and found out that you was lying to me. So, Samson, tell me your secret. What did she do? I'm like, I don't know what she did. She said, before I say that, I want to tell you, you have the same ability. I said, really? She said, yes. She said, first of all, you got to know your man. The Bible said the woman was made for the man, not the man for the woman. That means you're made for him. You fit in. It's just even our anatomy. You give us the seed, we carry it and push it out. When a man have a dream and a vision, you give it to the woman. She's supposed to help develop it and push it out. That's our job. And when we go outside of that, we're wrong. So your job is, you supposed to know your husband. First of all, your husband is a military man. And so he's trained to kill. That means 30 years, when an enemy come to his territory, he know how to take him out. And when he's offended, well, every time you offend your husband, his guards go up. She said, you supposed to get him to the fact that he put his guards down. That's what Delilah did. She knew Samson, and she knew how to make him drop his guards, right? So much so that she didn't even care that he was ready to kill him. She said he came to her house and he laid his head on her lap, and she began to stroke him. She began to make her house peaceful. She had what he needed. She whispered those sweet nothing to it, even if it was a lie. It sounded good to him. And she said, you have to learn how to disarm your guy. And she said, I guarantee you, if you stop trying to combat him all the time and always have this to say, he'll give you whatever you want. Guess what? She ain't never lied. I'm living in a $1.8 million house right now that my husband paid for because I learned that it's not degrading for me to let him lead.
I love it. Come on, Rome. Come on,
Learn,
Rome.
I
Come
learned to let
on.
him lead.
Hey, no, that's powerful. You said something because I'm a man that likes laughter myself, so I know all about Martin. Um, what did he say? And after the fact that you said, hey, either your kids can come out here and watch, or they can go to their room. Did he allow his kids to watch Martin along the way, or
Yeah.
how did that happen? How did that dynamic happen after the fact, knowing that your kids was gonna watch it regardless?
So what he did was he let them watch it because he didn't want to make it seem like they're gonna be stuck in a room and they watching Martin and they didn't. It's just like even homecoming. They never went to homecoming. Well, my kids going to homecoming. So I can buy them a dress to go or they can stay at home. But I can't make him do differently, but I'm not gonna take that away from my kids because this is what they used to. So what he did was he essentially seen that was really not a problem. It really was a religious thing that we grow up in. It wasn't that they're gonna die and go to hell for. So after reasoning with that, he gave in because it wasn't nothing that was going to be detrimental. You know what I'm saying? It was just a preference. But he ended up
Absolutely.
letting me watch it. Hmm.
Absolutely. I got another question too. You said that it was wise to not argue in front of the kids. Um, when you guys had disagreements or what we call intense fellowships, when you had those intense moments, how did you all diffuse, I guess, the situation? Did you wait till they go to school and call each other on the phone? Did you meet for lunch? How did you guys overcome those situations?
So either we tabled it for that day and we took care of it some other time, or we went into the car and took a ride. Because that's the problem our kids having now. They never really seen us argue. Not that we didn't argue. But we what we did was, like I said, I either left or he left or we took care of it another time. And that takes self-control. Most of the time I just left or he left and took a walk or whatever. And we end up talking about it later. But it got talked about.
No,
That
no, that's good. That's good
yeah,
because you definitely you said something too earlier. I know this is Luke is the only gospel that said this way when Jesus said to follow me. He says, deny yourself, pick up your cross daily.
yeah,
Key word is daily. So
absolutely.
when you got to go before God daily for the things that you're dealing with and everything like that, and then he says to follow him. So the fact that you was able to stay, persistent through it all,
Yeah,
like you said, how God is unconditional. You stay unconditional love, and you did the best that you could in the midst of it all.
yeah,
Because a lot of people, I'll be honest with you, a lot of people. I'm from the Midwest, like you being from Detroit. A lot of people would have broke in that situation. So you said something profound earlier with counseling. I think a lot of people don't know how powerful counseling can be,
yeah,
especially when you have a blended family. I think that's really, really key because everybody's upbringing is different.
yeah,
Like you said, when you lose a loved one, he lost a wife, those kids gonna be affected a different way. Or you're going through, child abuse, that's going to be affected. So all of those traumas, I
yeah,
always tell everybody, unhealed traumas in the childhood become adulthood problems. So
absolutely.
when you don't address those things, it can be real pivotal over time. So the fact that you all were able to overcome those things, and even the daughter that was lost, my condolences for her to say those, words with pretty much like her lasting words to you, I can see
Yeah,
why it was so impactful for you in that moment. That's
yes,
my take.
yes, it's
I
good.
appreciate it,
That's
Rome.
true.
What you got for us, Lim?
No, I mean, I really enjoyed her testimony. I want to provide some stats just to tell you how much she beat the odds. 70% of blended families in a divorce. The ages that have the most challenges is 10 to 14. With the blended family. Yes, blended families can work. but it's going to, sometimes you're going to get, in this case, I think she brought this up. Sometimes the win, the ultimate win, is you may not get all the children to buy in. That's not guaranteed.
Right.
But you get, if you can get both parents or both adults to stay the course for what they believe in, it can work.
Yeah.
But the children may not come along for the ride. Not all of them. Some of them may, some of them, they depend on how many you have. And some of them, it may just be, here's the win. They may, you know what, mom, dad, I respect your decision. But this is just, I'm
Right.
not, right, I'm not all on board, but I respect you guys. I love you guys. And I wish you the best. And you know what's funny? Here's something else that happens in these situations. How many times have we heard children say, when I grow up, I'm not going through this, right? How many times we made these declarations? I ain't doing it like Big Mama. I ain't
Right.
doing like Big Dad. I'm gonna do it different. So everybody, this could be a learning experience for children to be able to, because whatever you showing them, this then becomes their parameter to then go out when they're dating and meeting people and how they want to relate and how they want to be viewed in that dating sector when they get to meet people. So
That's right.
all of this is a learning experience, but I'll say yes, can blended families work? Yes. Are they a lot of work? Yes. Are you guaranteed that everybody's going to buy in? No. That's not a guarantee. And sometimes you have to be willing to go if you have to think they say, well, consider the cost. If someone's going to tell you in the beginning at day one, here's what you're facing with the blended family. Are you strong enough? Do you have the fortitude? Are you prayed up enough to go to course? If you're not, don't do it.
I
If you
agree.
are, right? So
I
at
agree.
least I believe in giving people the information so they can make informed decisions. I don't think we should, and this is for the adults now, I don't think we should just throw things together and just hope for the best.
That's right.
That's not how you want to approach
I
this
agree.
because there's too many moving parts. There's too many people who are looking and depending on people to make the right decisions and they don't get a choice. So yes, that's what I would say to anybody that's going to embark. Consider the cost. What is it
Yeah.
going to cost me?
That's right.
And then bottom line is you gotta be able to understand that love isn't enough. Just
Yes.
Oh,
love baby girl and
No.
just care for her. Guess what? It comes as a package deal. So just because you bought this car, this means the engine comes along with it, right? This
Mhm.
means this is a package deal. So if you love the girl, you're gonna love her child. Vice versa. If you love the husband, you're gonna be able to love his kids, or you should be able to. And so
But you know what too? You got to consider too. Even how many times have you heard, and it's unfortunate, the step parents molested the kids. You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? So
well,
now you got to deal with that. You don't know who. If you come into a relationship and you got girls that's booming and stuff like that, then every eye that's closed ain't sleep. Or women now, they just as bad.
I gotta use
Yeah.
them. Every
You know
eye
what
that's
I'm
closed,
saying?
they sleep. Every eye. Hey, that's a deep over here. I'm gonna take that one up to you. Every
And
eye
so
that's closed, they sleep.
and so you got to consider those factors too. Where did you come from? What kind of childhood do you have? I mean, is there molestation in your family? Is there a generational thing? We throw things together and we don't understand, and before you know it, like I was abused as a stepchild. You understand what I'm saying? So we don't consider, and at some point, speaking from a stepchild standpoint, I had to forgive my mom. I didn't ask for this man to come in my life, and he was very abusive, right? She didn't know it. She worked at night. He didn't sexually abuse, but he was very mean. And so I was mad at her, like, you chose this Negro to marry. But then on the flip side, I this is what maturity would do. Maturity would tell you, I know in fact my mother loved me with all her life. I know that. And if she knew that this Negro was going to do it, she would have never got with him. I know that for sure. And so sometimes things catch you on the blind side. So you got to even forgive when they don't even ask for it. Because one thing my mother said, I will share this with too many people. Well, one thing my mom did when I was telling her how I felt about him one day, And she said to me, "Oh, it wasn't that bad." I got mad at her. But then I had to pray about it, right? And God told me in my spirit, she she could not she could not accept the fact that she put you in any kind of condition to harm you. So owning that would have destroyed her. If I put my kid in a fact to get her, no mother want to know that they did that to their child. Some people can't take that. And so God said, for she did the best she can with what she had. She didn't mean me no. I know that. Because some things that happen, even with my blended family, I didn't never meant my kids that no harm, but things happen. So you got to learn how to forgive, heal, and let it go. Let it go. She didn't mean it. They didn't mean, but sometimes that happened. But we have to now, like, I mean, really, really take your time and see what you have. Not that blended family can, because it can. However, you have to be humble enough. You have to be prayerful enough. You have to learn how to hear, and it can't be just about you. When you have all this family, it got to be about the kids too. If you see the kids acting away, maybe they just need a hug. Maybe they just need understanding. Maybe they don't need you. Yeah, they said it that way, but maybe a soft answer would turn away wrath. Maybe if you would have project love opposed to getting with them, we gotta grow up. But I didn't know that at first. I ain't learned this after really taking it back, look and say, man, I could have did that a little differently if I had known. Or I should have said that, or maybe I should have react like that. But I didn't know. But now that I do, I'm gonna help as many people as I can. Don't take it like that. Maybe she's mad about her dad or he not coming to see her. That she's feeling away. You just never know. Talk, have some dialogue, but don't get so offended by everything. She didn't say hi to me. Well, maybe, and I'm not saying disrespect because I'm not tolerating no disrespect. But baby, is anything wrong? How you doing? Opposed to why you didn't speak to me? How adults do. Sometimes we gotta rise above that, what it should have been, but it's not. So deal with reality and not what you think it should be. Deal with what it is.
And let me say this as well. It's hard to acknowledge or to be able to accept the fact that if the girls are mad at their dad, do you think they're gonna take it out on their dad? 9 times out of 10, she gonna get that smoke. It's her because we can't be bad at our dad because we got to show loyalty. So all of that smoke, and that is why I want the audience to be able to hear this from a step parent point of view. I think it's very imperative that we talk about this as people in general. We don't talk about just throwing this out here and making it work just because we love each other. It's way deeper than this, and therapy is needed. Like Rome said, you need to be able to consider the kids' feelings from what Rome said. And so I'm gonna have Auntie Kim close us out with some closing remarks. Like, so what would your suggestion be with somebody that's starting a new blended family, and two, being in a blended family for a long time and they don't see the light at the other end of the tunnel?
I think they should, number one, talk to someone that's been there, that's really able, wise counsel though. The Bible talk about, wise counsel. You got to have some wise, somebody that understand, number one, who Christ is and want to do it his way. So you just can't take advice for everybody because some people will throw things to make you break up. But someone who's really understanding, they're following God and trying to do it their way and understanding that they've been there. Like I've been there 29 years, you know what I'm saying? So I know the ins and outs of certain things. My feelings got hurt up and down, roller coaster, even still to today, like you said. Uh, some people never buy into it. I still have one of them that don't hate my guts to this day. But I'm good with that. As long as I had to make peace with myself that I did the best I could. Now, if you bogus, then you gotta be accountable for that. And if you know I caused that. But in this situation, I know for sure I did the best I could. I love them, but she has a mother, and she still after 30 years want her dad with her mother because we live in this way. But he didn't live this way by himself. He had help. I'm a good help me. I don't sit at home. You
Oh,
just take care of me. I do my part, and so I would say that if they don't want to buy in, they just don't want to buy in. But you gotta continue to live your life and just still show love, is what I'm saying. You don't have to be disrespected because I'm never gonna be disrespected. You're not gonna come to my house and disrespect me either. But in the same token, if you come and you proper and you done healed and you want to have a conversation, just be open. Don't just shut the door on people. You know what I'm
I
saying? Especially when they might mature, they may turn around and be open to that. Don't hold what they did against them to the point that you cannot forgive. Because when you forgive, man, God can do anything.
I love it. Okay, so we'll end by this. She said enough big mama isms, but I'm gonna end by saying this. In Proverbs, and I just want to make sure I have this right. Proverbs 22:6. It say, raise up a child in the way it should go. That's a promise. And when the child get older, it would not depart from it. Right?
That's it.
So what I'm
That's
saying
it.
is if you are doing that, if you're raising your child up in the way it should go, it means full circle, like she talked about the prodigal son. So continue to keep doing your best. I really, really appreciate Aunt Kim for coming and dropping these
Appreciate
gems.
you asking me.
I'm
Yeah.
talking I'm talking about you did not shy short from everything that I thought you was gonna say. And I love it. I love your vulnerability. Thank you so much for taking accountability, being vulnerable to tell your story, being able to know that this is gonna help somebody. And we really, really appreciate it. And we'll see y'all next week. Thank y'all so
Bye.
much.